back in the woods.
Okay guys, so looking around inside, this is a 14-foot teepee, and it's pretty nice inside. I've got, several accoutrements and things hanging from these separator bars that hold up the liner inside the teepee, which is what helps it draft. If you look over the top of this thing, you can see the bottom of the teepee in the grass, and that lets air come up through here and creates a chimney effect to go out the roof when you got a fire inside. So I hang things, which was very typical, off of those stays. And I've got my hat and my wool hunting shirt hanging there. I've got a trade blanket made out of alpaca here, my self bow and my arrows, Pathfinder haversack. We go over here to the side and we've got a Duluth bedroll laid out there with just some trade cloth on top of that and a full elk hide. And then I've got a handmade wool blanket by Rebecca Dockery back there that I sleep under, and another Wildy queen size wool blanket that came off my scouting pack, which is over there in the corner behind another alpaca trade blanket. Going around the inside of the teepee, I've got just a small personal trunk right there. Would have been very typical along the frontier to have a trunk as a trade item that someone would have gotten from a wagon coming through or from traders coming through and things like that. Would have been a fancy item that someone would have traded skins or pelts for to get very easily, and that contains my Bible, my glasses, my notebook and pencil and things like that. There is a 54 caliber flintlock pistol at the ready beside the bed for intruders at night, animal or otherwise. A shot pouch with 6 shot in it for the pistol or for my flintlock smoothbore. And I just got a couple baskets to hold odds and ends over here, toiletries and other things that I used to work on inside the teepee, sewing and things of that nature, and some of my cooking utensils. Then I've got a flat cutting board area right here, a work board. It's got my Hudson Bay tobacco tin and clay tavern pipe. Clay tavern pipes were very, very typical along the frontier and in taverns. That's why they were called a tavern pipe. They were made of clay. They were disposable. Those were very typical trade items back in the period. I've got a lead ladle there, a small sharpening stone, an axe. Some of this stuff is not what you would call period correct, but I don't care about that. Like I said, I'm just looking at goods that, someone would have in a situation like this if they were trying to do a more traditional setup. And then I've got a larger trunk back here that I keep clothing items in. Again, trunks would have been a very atypical trade item back in the frontier days that someone would have traded to get rid of weight that they were carrying or to trade for something else that they needed. So this trunk helps me by being able to put my clothing in it, and I could carry something like that out of here feasibly in a situation like this, because in a situation where you're living in a teepee, this is not a mobile domicile without horses. So you've got to understand that you've got to have carryability for the domicile, which leads you to be able to put things inside of it that you're not going to be able to carry on your back necessarily. I've got a belt up here that I've been working on today that I've stained. Just a one-ring belt, again, very atypical from medieval times all the way through the 18th century. I've got a hanging candle holder there, modern day. Again, if it works, it works. A period candle holder would work just as well, and I may put one of those in here, but for now I've got that one. I've got my horn and shooting bag beside my 54 caliber smoothbore musket. I have a container made of a gourd for water at the top there. That would have been, again, very atypical, especially in the eastern woodlands, to have a gourd container for water. I've got a koi or wild dog hide right there that I tanned and shot several years ago, probably 15 years ago. I've got a trade blanket behind that, very reminiscent of a Civil War type trade blanket. 2 rubber buckets, again, modern stuff, usability is what I'm after. 10 buckets would be fine, but those rubber buckets are indestructible. A stack of firewood, and then another coat hanging there. In the middle of the situation here, I've got my fire pit right in the middle, pretty much just a little off center of the teepee itself. I've got a tin corn boiler in there, which would have been very indicative of the period from the 1800s. And then beside that, a newer version with the zebra billy. They both work out just as well as the other one. The zebra billy is a little more bulletproof because it's made of stainless steel, while the other corn boiler is made of tin. And I have a flat iron skillet right there. Again, iron skillets would have been a good trade item back then. And I've got that on, this trivet system, or this system that we set up here, very similar to what we forged the other day in the yurt series, and also very similar to something that you would have on the frontier if you were in a permanent or more permanent camp stay. I got this one from Steve Critter Davis, brought this one to me. It's got the pot hanger with it, it has the holder, and it also has a meat fork that can go in it as well, so that you can roast meat over your fire if you need to. And then I've just got a couple small utensils in here. I've got a horn spoon, I've got a bamboo spatula, and a bamboo spoon as well to cook with. And then I've got a couple spare pieces of firewood beside the fire. So that pretty much gives you a tour of what's inside the teepee. We're gonna do a lot of projects in here as we go. I hope you guys have enjoyed this quick Pathfinder Cribs tour of the teepee. Look for more videos in the Diary of the Teepee soon to come.